First, I want to thank all y'all for the feedback in my last video. Apparently, I lost sight of my objective. So, we're going to get back to that. The reason I started all this in the first place was to share what I know and how I do what I do. I'm going to call today's video Turning on the Cheap, because wood prices are getting outrageous and a lot of you can't get out there to, or don't have the resources to buy expensive turning blanks from Woodcraft or Rockler or wherever, whatever wood supplier you can find. So I'm going to talk to you about options for where to find your wood, because most of the wood that I've got, by and large, about 95% of it, is stuff that I got for free. So where do you find this? Well, let's talk about that. But before we get into that, I'm going to hit you with this little teaser. If you want to see how I did this bowl, it was scrolled, go to this link right here. So let's talk about turning on the cheap. How do we do it? I cut a bunch of maple limbs when I was still living in Ohio. I believe this is spalted maple. I'm not positive. It looks like spalted maple. But it was a piece of a limb that I cut when I was in Ohio. I had some big maple trees with some huge limbs on them that were trying to fall on the house out in the street, so I cut them out. Another option is when you're driving down the street or whatever, look around. Very often people put lumber and wood or whatnot out on the curb. You can even turn pine, honestly. I mean, it's really, it's just up to you. It's something to turn. It's pretty soft. Yeah, it's not all that pretty, but hey, it's turning. People are constantly, I have loaded my truck full of reclaimed pine fence boards, just panels that I go pick up, and that's another option. You can glue those together and make something that you can turn. 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x10s. You can turn those things as well. Even pallet wood, you can turn pallet wood. I have found oak, I have found rock maple, I've found all number of good hardwoods in pallets. You just need to make sure that you read the labels for how that wood was treated, and make sure that you don't turn something that has been chemically treated, because that could be bad. I have heard that some people have found pallets that came in from overseas made of such things as ipe or bubinga or any number of fine exotic hardwoods. So it's there to be had if you want to look around enough. Also, one of the main ways that I get wood is people that know me and know what I do. Many of them were co-workers of my wife. They call me when they see something that's been cut down, or if they've just recently cut a tree down and they ask me if I want it. That's another option. When people find out what you do, they're going to let you know, hey, this wood's over here, come get it. You can turn just about any tree that comes down. You just have to either wet turn it and let it dry and then return it, or you can, if you turn it thin enough, you can turn it straight to finish. Or you can cut the tree up and prep it like I do and let it dry before you do anything with it. I'm going to show you here in a minute a stack of wood that I've gotten that was all given to me. Hackberry, Arizona ash, ash juniper. And another option is get to know one or two of your local arborists or tree service people. Get to know them. Get to ask them if they've got any cutoffs or whatever. Here's the deal. Most of these tree services, by and large, most of them have to pay to take that stuff to the dump. They will gladly let you have it. All you got to do is ask them. If you're driving around and you see somebody cutting down a tree, stop. Ask them if you can have some of it. Getting free wood is not difficult if you're willing to take the time to look for it. And yes, gas prices are high, so a lot of people aren't going to be doing a whole lot of moving around and traveling. But get the word out that you're looking for logs, and you'd be surprised how many people get back with. And you don't have to start with a big hunk of tree either. You can turn a 4, 5, 6 inch limb just as easily. And I've got plenty of that stuff too. One of my viewers recently brought me 2 nice box elder burls because he had several of them, and I sent him home with some wood that he didn't have. So there's that kind of thing available as well. You just never know. I haven't seen one down here, but when I was living in Ohio, there was a website called FreeCycle where people would go on there and they were giving stuff away. So if you've got something like that in your area, check it out. People posted on their stuff they were giving away. There was washers and dryers. And in fact, that's where I got the dishwasher that I turned into my kiln. That's also where I got about 500 board foot of Pecky cypress. So if you've got something like that, check it out. Go to Craigslist, look for the free stuff, and look for wood. There's always people trying to get rid of wood on Craigslist. So these are some of the options available to us as turners. You've gone through the process of spending the money on the lathe and buying the lathe tools, and now you've got to worry about where to get wood. This is Osage orange. So is this. A friend of mine brought it to me. It came down from Kansas. She went up there to see, her and her husband went up there to see his dad, and they brought it to me. This is hackberry. All of this stuff down here. My next door neighbor was taking down a hackberry tree. Said, "Do you want this?" I said, "Sure." This is all Arizona ash. Came down in a storm. Former co-worker of my wife said, "This ash tree came down on my niece's house. I just asked Billy if he wants it." I went and filled the back end of my pickup with it. This root ball was given to me by a friend of mine. All of this hickory in here. A co-worker of my wife lives on some acreage, and she was cutting down some hickories and said, "Do you want it? Come get it." This ash juniper, again, a former co-worker of my wife said, "We're taking down this big mountain cedar tree. Does Billy want it?" I said, "Sure." That little thing right there was an orange tree. It died. My daughter said, "Come get it." Mesquite firewood, that's turnable. Yeah, it's going to have some holes, but it'll also have some character. All of this oak, some of it's firewood, some of it's turnable. Again, pruned from my own live oak trees. Now, not everybody has that kind of tree in their yard, but some people do. I've been thinking about this quite a bit since I filmed the last part of this video, hence my change in attire. Another place for you to see if you can find turning stock would be to check with any local turning clubs that are out there. If you're not a member, join. And some of those turners may have an idea of where you can get your hands on stuff to turn. If there's a turning club in your area, that is. Another option, if you're close enough to me to make the trip, come see me. I'll hook you up with a bunch of live oak. At least you'll have something to turn. Getting back to turning pine, I've been thinking about this too. You don't want to go buy the stuff that you can get at the big box store and put together, glue up into blanks. But if you can get your hands on some old stuff, like I said before, there was a guy remodeling his house, and then he ripped all the paneling off of his wall. In this case, it was Pecky cypress. There was another guy down the street from me. House was built in 1962, and he ripped every single door out and all the jambs and put them out on the curb. I went and picked them up. And that pine that was used back then is really, really nice. It's a little older growth than the stuff you can get today. It had already settled and not, it was straight. So you can glue stuff like that up and make turning blanks as well. Look around for people that are tearing down old homes and collect what you can. Look for if anybody's tearing down an old barn. Old barnwood can be really, really interesting. When I was living in Ohio, a guy lived right across the river in Kentucky, and he was tearing down an old barn, and it gave me a piece of one of the beams. And as it happens, it's hand-hewn wormy chestnut, American chestnut. So it's well over 100 years old. It is so dry when I try to turn it, there's no chips, no shavings, it's just dust. But it makes a really pretty piece. So there are options out there for where and how to find wood. You just have to be willing to do a little research and a little leg work and find stuff. Sorry I'm so sweaty, but it's kind of hot outside. As luck would have it, less than 30 minutes after I finished shooting that last segment that you just watched, a buddy of mine at a commercial woodworking shop called me and said, I've got all of this wood that I can't use laying in a pile and they're after me to get rid of it. So if you don't come get it, it's going in the dumpster. Well, you know me, I'm a wood hoarder. So I've just spent the last hour and a half going to get it, coming home and unloading it. It's just stacked up in here on my table saw. Let me show you what I got. All of this was laying there and he told me to haul it off. These are some pretty nice pieces of, he said it's Chinese birch. It's not Baltic birch, Chinese birch, but still it should scroll fairly nicely. Even better, make floating bottoms for segmented pieces, which is what I'm going to make out of this stuff. Got some big scraps over here. Some of these things, like this one and some of the others that are wider and bigger, I'll probably turn into platters, just to show you what you can do with leftover wood. And this other stuff, some of it I will do segmented pieces out of, but Billy, I don't have a table saw or a jiggy sled or a fancy miter gauge like you, so I can't make segmented pieces. That's okay. In an upcoming video, I will show you how you can, well, I'm not going to show you using a skill saw, but I'll tell you how you can take a skill saw and rip a jointable edge if you don't have a joiner or a table saw. I don't have a joiner. I do all my joining on my table saw. All you have to have is a good table saw. Make sure it's nice and square and a good blade. I mean a good quality blade. And I've been getting joiner quality edges for gluing up panels off of my table saws for a long time. Not just this big table saw, that little $200 Craftsman back there. And I will show you this on that little Craftsman. Anyway, so wood is there to be had. Aromatic cedar, some more walnut over here. This is all walnut. This is maple. Some of it is curly right in here. This, I'm not positive. I don't see pitch pockets, but it sure looks like it could be cherry. It's a little too dark to be maple, but maybe not. I don't know. So this is either maple or cherry. I can't tell right now. Again, walnut. This stuff that looks like mahogany, he said, is African mahogany called Sipo. A lot of nice stuff here. This is all just red oak, but it's a good quality hardwood. And like I said, I've got these stacks of things over here that I'll do something with as well. So the wood is out there to be had. Just spread the word, get the word out. Scour, go beg and plead. The first time I went to this shop, I asked him what he was going to do with all of his cutoffs, and he said, I got plans for that. And I said, okay. Fast forward 2 months, he calls me and says, you still want cutoffs? Now, being a wood hoarder, the problem I have is, where am I going to put all that? I hope that I have addressed some of those issues that plague many new turners. It did me. You know, where am I going to get whatever to turn? So I hope this has helped. I really do. That's the whole reason that I do this. And in my next video, I'm going to attack this blank. And we'll see what we can make out of it. It's got some cracks and checks in it, but, I don't mind that.